Hi, Andy. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you. We have a sweet little girl here.
Does she have a name, Andy?
You have to
Her
use
name
the
is,
microphone.
Does the baby have a name?
yes, Willow. Her name is Willow. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, that's great.
And mom and baby
Can
are
you say,
doing well.
can you say something else? I'm testing our volume.
Okay, I'll keep talking. Never a shy guy. Um, do you want me to just elaborate on the many ways in which she's so wonderful? Would that be
Yes, yeah.
Absolutely. That's what we all want to hear.
Is the volume okay there, Lisa? Do you need
It's
me to keep
better.
talking? Better?
There may be
Yeah.
something on your end.
How much did she weigh?
She weighed almost 7.5 pounds, but of course she
Uh-huh.
lost weight, but she's coming back. Um, let me see if I can do something with the audio.
Is this any better or worse?
Yeah, much better.
Okay.
And Commissioner McKenzie, before you get started, we have Commissioner Angbarth listening in remotely. We do not have any members of the public remotely, and no members of the public submitted comments. Yes, we're good to go.
Welcome everyone to the. Thank you. My vice chair here reminded me to get on the microphone. Anyway, welcome everybody to the February 18th Sonoma County Library Finance Committee meeting. We have been informed we have no members of the public at home watching, and one commissioner is watching this remotely. I would like to know if anyone has any announcements. That's next. Oh, no, that's first. Call to order, first of all. All righty, Commissioner Cahill.
Here.
Commissioner Doyle. Commissioner Elkind.
Here.
And Commissioner Poles. And I am here. So we have all full house. Any announcements for anyone? Hearing none, public appearances. We have no members of the public here or on Zoom. Let's go right to item 4.1, budget, accounting and finance services workflow, and hand the floor to our CFO Lopez.
Good afternoon. So, I don't know why. I think I'm gonna put this out.
So he's leaving us.
Sorry about that. My watch was making noises that I didn't like. Okay, so I'm looking at the months of February and March, and we did the mid-year review early in January. I was able to finalize that in January to send it to the commission in February. So we completed that. We also have scheduled a procedures update normally in the month of February. I would like Catherine Line, who's our accounting manager and overseeing most of our procedure updates, and move that update to March, if that's okay. She's out of the office currently. Regarding March, we have a pension valuation. This is timely in terms of our agenda for today. There is a pension valuation that was completed by CalPERS itself on the pension that we hold with them. The pension evaluation that's listed for the month of March is estimated as a third-party evaluation of the same information. They're slightly different, and we could discuss further about that when we're on the agenda item for this today regarding the pension valuation. But other than that, I don't have any other changes or updates on the workflow.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments about the workflow? Could I just, so I don't forget when we get there, in terms of the third-party pension valuation, that's been done and that's the one that will come before us next month?
No,
Oh,
it has not been done.
oh, okay. I thought you said something about they weren't exactly the same. The third
They are
party.
not exactly the same. They're slightly different. But I'd like to make some recommendations when we're actually on that agenda item
Okay,
today.
all right. Don't let me forget.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Alrighty, so no questions. So thank you very much. And we'll move on to 4.2 monthly financial reports for January 31st, 2025. Back to our CFO.
Okay, well, these monthly reports don't change very much. They touch on consistent data points that I'd like to highlight for the committee. But to summarize this report ending January 31, 2025, it does mark 58% of the fiscal year elapsing. I do want to just make the committee aware again that given our revenues, that property tax is projected to meet our targets, and sales tax, on the other hand, continues to experience a lower than expected, even after the commission adopted reductions in sales tax in December. The receipts are coming in lower, even lower than that, not by much, but at this time I'm projecting approximately $100,000 shortfall. I have mentioned that other revenues, specifically the interest earned is coming in greater than anticipated. So that revenue would offset an estimated of $100,000 shortfall under sales tax. So I do want to just keep our eyes on that. And that has not changed since January. When we do get our sales tax receipts for the month of February, it will reflect holiday expenditures. It normally goes up. So if everything goes well, we might even close that gap, but we'll see later this month. And for under expenditures, we have total of approximately $9 million, and that's 55% of the budgeted total expenditures. Salaries and benefits are expected to be within budget. And under services and supplies, we're at 52% of the total budget. So I don't have any concerns there. In capital, I did provide some additional information that this committee has requested. Capital projects are, in terms of construction and completion, are on track. Our actual expenditures through January has been $3.9 million or 68%. But this does reflect our our timeline for our projects. And is driven by the Healdsburg branch and the Petaluma branch modernization projects. Today, I had invited Dave Tchiva to be here to answer any questions. Unfortunately, he's unable to be here today due to, I'm not sure I can share, but anyway, he's unable to attend today. I hope that we can answer any questions you may have, and if in the event we can't, we will provide you a follow-up. But
You want to have questions during or wait till the end?
I'll skip over the capital and leave it for the end, just to finish off in terms of our fund balance. Property tax is currently at $12.2 million and sales tax is at $8.8 million. And so that's approximately $20 million on unassigned fund balance, which we'll be discussing later in the agenda as well. But I'll just summarize our capital in terms of back in at the Finance Committee on September 13, and I presented a summary of projects that were online, the projects that had funding approved for this fiscal year. And there were shortfalls estimated at that time for the Petaluma and Healdsburg projects. Since then, under the Petaluma project, staff feels confident that that shortfall will close. And for the following reasons is that these projects were funded by state grants. And so it is a partnership between the city and the library. And the grant is funding both portions of work that the library is responsible for and work that the city is responsible for. For the Petaluma project, the library has been conducting work that the city is responsible for financially. And taking a closer look at the grant funds, staff or Dave Tchiva has worked with the city to eliminate the gap on the library side, which was driven by some of the work that the library has been conducting for the city. So there are some savings in certain categories of the grant that can be shifted into other categories so that the overall project is financially covered by and we could fully utilize the grant funds. So those are the ongoing conversations that we're having with the city. My understanding is that the city is very committed to ensuring that we fully utilize those funds and can use those funds, all the funds that are available also for the portion of the library's work. So, do you have any questions?
Do you have a follow-up question?
Sure, and maybe this is a naive question. So given that we're at about, what are we about 58% of the year, the fiscal year, and what I'm seeing is we've spent, and I really do understand capital goes much more in blobs than say, salary, which is more predictable. Are we concerned that we've already spent, I'm just trying to find that number, 68%, is that what you said? Sorry, I'm now can't find it. The number, I'm basically asking if we're, yeah. So what I'm just asking is there's no concern that we're gonna get into November and we're gonna be short money because we're over, you're fine with that. I'm just asking. Does that make sense?
Well, there is, in terms of what is funded here, I am not concerned except for in the next project update is Healdsburg. I think that we still do have a shortfall under Healdsburg.
Okay.
So-
Yeah, page 8 of your packet, under additional funding, the gap in Healdsburg is $613,000, 764. It's third paragraph, additional funding.
We haven't really talked about it. Okay.
So for the Healdsburg modernization project, we were going to break ground this year. So the total amount of $2.1 million was approved. And in September, the bids, responsive bids came in for that project and pretty much absorbed the $2.1 million, a good portion of it. But that 2.1 had included funds for the soft costs and, what did I say? For example, for soft costs. But since the construction costs were greater than expected, we are experiencing then a funding gap. And back in September, that funding gap was at $972,000. We have received up to $250,000 from the city and $101,600 from the Healdsburg Friends of the Library, which have helped close this gap. But the accounting of it is further down. Let's page 14 of the packet. Page 14. Okay. Yes, so as you can see, the total funding sources are 2.4 million. The contract was awarded at 1.7 million, but there have been 2 change orders to date. And then adding in the soft costs and so the projected costs are $3.1 million with the funding gap of $764,000. Staff is recommending to use savings that we're experiencing under the furniture replacement line item for $100,000. So if that's approved, then the current funding gap is $613,000. I would like to note, though, that the facilities manager has said that he is likely to expect 1 additional change order. I don't know what the amount of that is before the end of the project. So this 613 is subject to change.
Can I ask a question about that? So if we don't know about the change order, who's ordering the change? I mean, if it's not us, where's that coming from?
So the construction vendor it opens up walls, or as they're doing their work, they are finding that there are issues. There is a committee that reviews them and decides if it's vital to the project. If it's vital to the project, they have these change orders have been approved but the ultimate approver is the library.
Who's on the committee?
For all of these projects, we have ongoing weekly meetings for updates. So on a week by week basis, we know if they took down a wall and I don't know. Gosh, I wish I had an example off the top of my head, but they come into something that it causes a project to be more extensive, or they have to accommodate maybe an ADA compliance gets messed up because a shelving width is slightly off in a corner. So it's those types of things. So yeah, each week It's IT, it's a representative or one or more from IT, facilities, myself, the division manager for that particular location, as well as the contracting team that we're working with.
That's good. Did you get that started right at the get-go when
Once,
broke ground?
once everything was determined and we knew who the contractor was going to be and, you know, all of the players with that JPA partner. So, Diane Ramirez from Petaluma sits in on a lot of our meetings as well. And, so whoever the point of contact for the JPA partners
That's
are
great.
all in on those meetings. And as soon as ground breaks, it starts off the weekly meetings.
That's great. David?
Yeah, there's a substantial funding gap here, obviously. Are you at all concerned about this? Is it considered normal considering the complexity of the project? Or have something fallen off the buggy?
In the case of these projects in action right now, a lot of it just had to do with really bad timing on our part. Not that we could have controlled, you know, pandemic setting things back and costs going up across the board. From the Petaluma is a great example where it had so many starts and stops that from the original quote to breaking ground was, I believe, almost a 7-year gap. So we couldn't, I guess in hindsight, we should have been doing like an inflation reflection annually until we got ready for the project. But really it's supply chains and cost increases, that have driven it up. But we are also in a learning stage because this is the first time we've ever had so many modernization projects. So as we've been going through, we being me, Dave and Myrna, meet every other week to talk about where we are cost wise and trying to get in front of any surprises financially.
Okay, thanks.
And I can also add that with both Petaluma and Healdsburg, we moved to a temporary location, and those were added costs that were not figured into our original estimate. And so moving forward, when we do these projects, we will be evaluating whether or not you know, we can do that, whether we can continue to do that. With Windsor, we work out of the meeting room, and that is typically what we have done with all the other projects. But you know, it is probably not feasible moving forward for us to have a secondary location. Just because the costs that we, you know, the moving, the TIs and all of the IT and infrastructure work that we have to do. So if we can't do a meeting room, you know, location, then we will have to build in those costs and determine whether or not we can do that moving forward, have a temporary location or another offsite location.
Especially IT, I haven't thought about that. Or you keep signaling me.
Andy?
Andy? Yeah, and Commissioner Elkine, did you have a comment, question?
I have a question, please.
Okay,
I'm looking at the chart here under the expenditures. I see awarded construction contract, 1.789 million. Change order 1, 80,000. Change order 2, 26,000. Soft costs, 415,000. I see no description for the $854,754.
I think that's the gap, isn't
I
it, between
think
2.4?
that's, let me check, but I believe that may be yes, that is, the FF&E, soft cost, architect permit fees, et cetera, is 415. FF&E and other costs like
okay.
moving storage is 854.
Okay, thank you. It just was not clear from the spacing on the chart. I appreciate
Yes.
clarification.
if I could ask a few questions, Myrna, what exactly are the Friends paying for? It's a kind of an odd amount.
They're
window.
paying for a window, they're paying, they did delineate a few areas that they wanted to pay. I don't know what there are off the top of my head.
So it's the window, and then they're also enclosing the children's area, and they did a tree cutout that, and the Friends are funding those
A
items.
true,
A tree cutout.
Oh, tree
It's, so
cutout.
it's,
okay.
it will actually look like there's a tree in the corner of the children's
Okay.
area.
That seems like
It's a die cut and
Thank
the
you.
facilities department actually are purchasing their own die cutting machine so that the next time around,
Oh.
we will do it ourselves.
Right. Well, that's very nice of the Friends. Thanks, Healdsburg Friends. And did we already go through what the change orders were for? The 80,000 and 26,000, just out of curiosity, what is it, large chunks? We've never seen anything like this, which is very helpful. It's nice to see this. Do you know? If not, we.
I will have to get back to you. I don't
Okay.
remember what those two change orders are.
Okay. And my question about the furniture replacement savings, is that because we're going to buy less furniture or slightly less expensive furniture, or does that mean we're not replacing everything and using some of the old stuff?
No, they're getting new furniture, but we did find less expensive
Okay.
brands on
If I
part of
may. This is this furniture line item is not part of this project. When we budget for furniture, there was a separate line item for furniture replacement. And my understanding, so the branches will submit requests for furniture replacements and facilities with the branch managers may have a list of large purchases of furniture. My understanding is that for this fiscal year, since where we are at this point in time, those projects that have been approved and costed out have been approved already. So out of the 200-something thousand that was approved for that line item, there's a savings of 100,000 that is not going to be spent on furniture for the remainder of this fiscal year. So staff is proposing to use those funds to close this gap.
And that without coming back for the additional money for the furniture later on. It's just, I don't quite understand what you're saying, but.
Okay, so when the budget was approved back in June, there is one, under capital projects, there is one line item that says furniture. And that's for capital furniture, big desks or, large items. And staff has submitted approximately a little over 100,000 worth of projects that have been approved to date. And so therefore, there was about 200,000 that was approved, but only 100,000. The commission approved up to $200,000 to be spent in that line item. Yeah, so staff, meaning branch managers have submitted their projects that are worth about 100,000. And so management has said that and with the facilities manager, given where we are in this point in time, there will be savings of $100,000 on that line item that is supposed to support the entire library system. But given that we will not spend the full $200,000+ there, staff is proposing to shift that savings over to the Healdsburg project to help close the gap.
And we still will be coming back to the commission for additional funding for this project. The funding gap, the 613, we will be coming back to the commission.
That's right.
To approve additional funds.
Madam Chair, it's on page 14.
So just a point of clarification, I believe that you said, or maybe I just misheard you, that both these projects were grant funded, but actually Healdsburg did not get a grant.
No, only Petaluma is grant funded. Healdsburg is not.
Yeah, so any gaps are on us or hopefully the city or the Friends or else can pitch in. Yes, Tina.
The two items that you mentioned that the Friends of Healdsburg wants to pay for, the tree and the window, were those already in the budget or are those so they really, the 250 really come out of the budget? Or were those additional things that they wanted and were never in this project?
They were always in the project.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, lots of good questions about this, our projects here. Did we let you finish your summary or?
So I would just like to add, to piggyback on what Director Tibble said is, we will come back to the commission when, with approvals, but it will also include the shifting of the $100,000 plus I think we need to wait till we have a better estimate of the last change order.
Okay, thank you. It's nice.
Madam Chair.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Two questions. Well, actually, one's a comment. I said this last time, but I think we all really need to remember that costs are going to go up. With Southern California, costs are already going up for other libraries that have construction costs, so we need to be mindful of that. And then just a question, is the wine library going to stay in Healdsburg?
It is, and as part of the project, we are getting compact shelving for the wine library.
Are they contributing?
The wine library, the Friends, I thought we were raising money for the patio, but I don't think they've been successful. So
Yeah. Okay.
That's something. What's the one library?
The wine
A
library?
wine library. Oh, I thought ONE, okay. So it's great to read in here that the Petaluma city seems to be helping us. The Healdsburg, city of Healdsburg is nothing is forthcoming for the gap.
no, they're paying 250, which is exterior ADA, which is their responsibility.
All right. Any other questions about the modernization projects? Myrna, did you want to finish the report about, or let's see, we've gotten all the way there?
Yeah, I completed my portion and then came back to the capital
Okay,
because of the questions.
all right, last chance for questions. All right, thank you very much. Where are we? So, budget development process and the timeline overview. I thought this was really helpful. It's great that you spelled it out in great detail. I don't think we've ever had this kind of detail before. So do you want to hit the highlights or did they?
Sure,
Explain it.
I'll hit the highlights. So the commission the finance committee has expressed interest in strategic goal setting for the budget process. And so I prepared a narrative of what the current budget process is. And in order to support the desire and the discussion of the finance committee for additional, strategic goal setting, I have outlined the current process and wanted to ask the finance committee for early feedback, because for the current budget, it's too late to incorporate the kind of discussion that is needed for preparing a budget for strategic goals. But it is early enough to get feedback from the committee for the next budget cycle, which would be fiscal year 26-27.
Entertain questions, comments about the budget process narrative? The ability for the commission to weigh in? Yes.
I was really impressed by this. I think it's awfully well done. It's clear, everybody gets a chance to have their feedback. So I appreciate the work done here.
Andy? Commissioner
Yeah.
Alpine?
Yeah, thank you. No, I thought the process that Myrna outlines here is great. My only comment, and it's kind of I won't say buried, but it's it's in the middle of the information in the next agenda item about the pension plan, is that going forward, I think we will need to consider the impact of additional discretionary payments to the pension plan as another factor in the budget process, along with what we're doing with OPEB. So the paying down of those long-term liabilities will be additional pressure on the annual budget, but I think we're going to have to be mindful of it. That's all.
Yeah, just to give you a glimpse on where I see the budget for next fiscal year, given, the monthly report that I just made, is that sales tax revenues are slowing down. It is comforting to know that Measure W passed, so that we, hopefully, the floor is around 15 million plus $1,000 for the library. But it's been fluctuating over the last couple of years. And so property tax, on the other hand, is modestly increasing, which does help quite a bit. But it does, we don't have the pattern that we did prior years, where sales tax was increasing year to year, like $1 million year to year. And we're not seeing growth over the next couple of years. So putting some constraints on the budget. So that is a glimpse of where we're headed. That's why I think it is important to have some strategic discussions about what the vision of the commission and the goals and the priorities that you would like to set for staff in going forward and developing the budget. Also, another reason for outlining the budget process is to, we are in a public meeting now, to invite the public to participate at the budget workshop, laying out the process so the public understands what it is and where key decisions are made, and what factors that are in our control and those that are out of our control that impact our budget. So I think there's a lot of good reasons to have this process laid out. And so I also look for other feedback as to the importance of, if the commission does hold any any meetings for strategic goal setting, that it should happen August. September is kind of late, but early September, so that when we get our projections for revenues in November, December, we already know where, how we're going to allocate those funds given the priorities of the commission. And our division managers are also asking for that kind of guidance when they're speaking to their branch managers and their frontline staff as to planning for the next year's request for new programs, old programs, and whatnot.
Well, this adds a lot of clarity. I don't know that this is an important point, but when you talk about, it always is important to have the public come in and listen to the whole thing, and it hardly ever happens. I've seen it, city councils invite the public and nobody shows up, and it's really crucial in terms of people expressing their priorities and opinions. Would it be useful and all to have this somehow on our website as a individual document, maybe when I don't know, put some posting up on there?
We can do that. We could post it separately as part of our on our website. We'll look where it's best where we can do that. The other is that as part of your budget binder, it's going to be in there as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it's really great for as new people join the commission and so forth and join the finance committee. But it'd be nice, maybe the public to track it.
I agree.
Great. Well, thanks for doing that. And self-initiated, but very helpful in terms of all of our education. And final questions? Yes. Commissioner.
It may not be a huge thing, but I noticed that the union conversations are not in here, and sometimes they will have an impact on our budgets. And then, in terms of strategic planning, I think that that's really critical. And so we've talked about scheduling our strategic plan, but it's going to probably begin next fiscal year. So, I think it might not have as much of an impact, but in terms of letting the public know, I think in addition to putting this on our website, we also could put an invitation in various places so that they don't have to read through this whole thing, but that they can tell us what they want at specific times of the year, so that you know, if there's something that a specific neighborhood is interested in, that they might talk to us about that. But if that works, no.
Just to go back a little bit to us getting together for a strategic plan and us being not just people in this room. I feel like if we're gonna do this in any way that's helpful for 2000 and next budget, we actually need to schedule it now. And September is not that far away. We're August. And I just wonder, I just don't want to keep punting this meeting to meeting and it not happening. So I just, I'm just encouraging us I think we do, there
We have a
seems to be.
strategic plan.
No, but I meant no, I know we have a strategic plan, but the getting, am I misunderstanding then?
The
Maybe,
goal setting, maybe?
Yeah, goal setting. Commissioner priorities and.
yeah, that's what I meant, not
Yeah.
strategic plan, sorry about that, I used the wrong word, sorry. Yeah. No, I just had to go around, sorry, no, I used the wrong word, thank you very much, Commissioner.
That would be up to our chair too, but I think that's a great idea.
And just months just slip by and suddenly we can't.
Why wait 2 or 3 months and get it? But our calendar that we have of all of our meetings runs out in July, right? But
The current calendars for the commission are through June 4 of 2025. And next month, if all goes well, a schedule will be brought to the commission for review and approval for the next fiscal year. So fiscal year 25 to 26.
so this is good timing then to talk about this. Chair Doyle, do you have any thoughts about setting a date for something like that? In August?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we can certainly try that. One of the reasons why we're having our budget conversation is to talk about those things, but we can certainly make another date, a pre-budget workshop conversation. Is that
Well, I think,
what you're asking?
well, I mean, I guess the question is, you know, is this goal setting only going to be for the budget, or is it gonna be a larger goal setting for the library that the budget will be impacted by that, but I mean, I guess that's what I'm asking. What are you looking for?
That's a good
I think it's
question.
probably a larger commission conversation, so we can spend at least a half an hour at a commission meeting, having an initial conversation. And then we could even do that March, if we've got time on the budget.
This March?
Are you talking about
Yeah.
agendizing a conversation about agendizing what we're gonna talk about?
I think the full commission has to talk about it, yes.
So a discussion topic on a regular commission agenda about goal setting and setting a date sometime in late July, August. Okay, that makes, I understand you now. Okay.
Which is both budget as well as larger goals that aren't necessarily tied to the immediate budget that we're talking. And possibly the foundation's
Yeah.
goals or how that folds together. I don't know. Great. All righty, let's see, so we finished with this topic, I believe, and we're moving on. The last few finance committee meetings, we have talked about the unassigned fund balance planning. Last month, we talked about OPEB. This month, we're talking about the pension plan. Initially, there was some thought that we would have, as our CFO brought up, a consultant talking to us about it. We did have CalPERS representatives come maybe a year or so ago, talk to us about it. This is a great opportunity to just kind of get further educated, make sure we all understand the terms. I got pretty detailed through most of this attachment that you sent, but it is very educational, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this before we have the consultant come and talk to us about it. So did you want to hit some highlights also, or open it up for
Yes,
questions?
well, first of all, this is an actuarial report that is produced by CalPERS. And it's specific for the library's funded portion of the pension, the overall pension, the funded portion and the unfunded portion, as well as what are our ongoing normal costs and those that, and yes. We have had CalPERS give us presentations on our pension. And we have had third-party actuarial parties also conduct an actuarial report. Those dive into more detail about our population, how old they are, what are some expectations, and looking further out in the future. And it also does a sensitivity test on different discount rates, for example. But they don't get to the question that this committee always asks, is like, well, what is your recommendation for funding? Should we do a 115 trust, or should we do direct discretionary payments? And how much should we give? Those questions, the actuary does not make any recommendations on that. And so we can have a presentation, and I have meetings set up with CalPERS to give another presentation on what our options are, as CalPERS can set up 115 trusts, or we can do direct payments. I'm in touch with a third-party vendor that provides the same service, but they are a private sector consultants that are actuaries and manage 115 trusts for public agencies. And so I would like for this committee to have an opportunity to hear from those independent third party as well. The question has been like, where can we get our best return on our investment? And so if we look at different options, that's what I'm hoping for, to provide this committee and make recommendations for which route the committee would like to go. This this report I wanted to share with you because I use it in different ways. As you can see in some pages here, it'll tell me what the unfunded, I use it for budget purposes, the unfunded accrued liability. What it'll cost us if we pay on a monthly basis, what it'll cost us if we pay the lump sum. And as you know, we've been paying the lump sum because we do experience savings up to like $50,000, $60,000 a year. The other is, what is our contribution? As you can see, the contribution for the employer is slightly lower in the next budget year. It does save us some funds. So you'll see that, might see that in the budget workshop, that the cost of our benefits might be slightly lower, thanks to these contribution rates. But So I want to let you know that that's how I use it, so you can see where those numbers are coming from. But also wanted to just zone in on what is our unfunded liability. And if you look on page 4 of the report, or 104, 104 of the packet. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. Yes, page 28 of the package. As you can see here, towards the bottom of the page, it says funded status. As of June 30th, 2023, our accrued liability is approximately $91 million. The market value of our assets in terms of what we have paid is $71 million. So the difference is the unfunded accrued liability of $20.6 million. So we are 77.5% funded. And so the question is, well, does the Library Commission want to continue to make additional payments, either through direct additional discretionary payments, or we could also set a 115 trust. On page 16 or page 40 of the packet, this illustrates direct payments, direct additional discretionary payments. And if you wanted to pay down the 20 million plus unfunded accrued liability, there's 4 options here. You could over 20 years, if you paid 172,000 approximately every year, the library would pay down the $20 million. For 15 years, $484,000 annually would pay down the $20 million. There's a caveat because there's a lot of variables here, but if nothing changes, this is what it would look like, and you would be really, really close to 100% funded. So I wanted to share this with you so you could see at least one option as to where funds, how would you pay for this? One option is through the unassigned fund balance. The other option is your operating revenue, which would be really tight right now. But those are 2 options that we have at this time, but I wanted to show you what it would look like in the discussion of use of unassigned fund balance.
Right, thank you. Yes, David.
Yeah, my big concern is if we make additional discretionary payments, should we keep the present level or should we increase or decrease? The present level is $750,000 every 6 months.
That's OPEB.
No, oh, it's OPEB.
We're
Okay,
talking about CalPERS.
what's the difference?
Okay, so what we're looking here is our pension.
Yes.
So in our pension with CalPERS is based on our payroll,
Right.
and every pay period, there's a share cost, there's an employer cost share, and there's an employee share. And so this is based on our earned wages.
Okay.
The OPEB are other post-employment benefits
Health
that
insurance.
are health related.
Okay, my question is, my perspective is that we are now in essentially a status quo standstill budget where we're taking in roughly exactly what we need and no more to pay our expenses. Okay, so my own view is that we're doing pretty well keeping this stuff fully funded, especially compared to so many other governmental units, 77%. That's really good. And if we can maintain that or maybe slightly increase the percentage, we'll be fine. I don't want to increase our annual payments. Because then we would interfere with our operating expenses. So.
Well-
Hope that makes some sense. Probably not.
I'll entertain other questions. Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I have a little different perspective, Dave, than you do on this. And let me say, first of all, Myrna, I really appreciate you sharing all of this information with us. I'm going to point out a couple of things that appeared in the report. Lisa, could you please take us to page 48 in the document? It's the part that says funding history. There we go. Yeah. So this, if you look at the funded ratio, you can see that a few years ago, due to a great year in the market and probably some other factors that we couldn't specifically identify without a lot of analysis, we got up to 93% for 1 year, and then it dropped back below 80, and we're currently below 80, and it looks like 80% is about where we've been for the last 10 years. Dave, I know you feel like that's good. I don't know if that's good or not. And I guess I have a couple of questions that I'd like us to answer. I don't expect, Myrna, that you would have this information off the top of your head. But my hope is that as a committee, we could connect with your network of CFOs at other libraries, other public agencies, other special districts, and say, okay, maybe it's not realistic to maintain 100% funded ratio all the time, but what is a percentage that is considered a good, solid, prudent funded ratio that we should strive to reach and maintain? Maybe it's 95%, maybe it's 90, maybe it's 80%. Maybe we're actually doing quite well. I don't know, but I think we need to have that target number. And then the second question that I'd like to answer, and Lisa, if you could please go back to page 40 in the document with the different funding options. Yeah. Currently, all we have been doing is paying our normal cost and making the minimum UAL contribution. And as Myrna mentioned, she has been doing this in a one-time payment at the beginning of the year, which has been saving us about $50,000 a year, which is great. The second question that I would like us to answer is, if we're not at the level of funding that is considered prudent, how many years is considered a best practice to get there? 20 years feels like a long time to me. That feels like we're being just very optimistic. A lot of things we can't control. I don't know that we would ever get close. 5 years feels like it would be an enormous burden, given, Dave, as you're saying, the fact that, you know, we are trying to balance our current operating expenses, our capital expenses, and these long-term liabilities. But I'd like to get a sense, again, from CFOs at other libraries, public agencies, special districts, what is a prudent period of time? If we have those two answers, those feel to me like the most significant questions that we have to resolve. If we find out that we do need to increase our funding level and we have a certain number of years in which we should try to do that, the question of whether we should make our additional payments to CalPERS or to a 115 trust is important, but it's secondary. It's secondary to those other two target questions. So I've talked a lot. I'm going to stop. Thank you.
let me continue talking.
Okay,
Um,
I'll follow on you then.
Another question is the obvious one. When you're asking other CFOs, not only about best practices, but what's your rate? What is your own percentage of funding? My guess is it'll be dramatically less than their best practice. I have a feeling I've read something probably on the internet sometime about how this is one of those things that our governmental units like us never catch up on. That it's always, like 40% funded, that's just how it is. They treat it as a pay-as-you-go liability. So I'd like to know what the down and dirty is, not what the best practice is. I was
Now,
both.
that does not feel like a responsible position for us to take, Dave. The fact that other public organizations have not adequately funded for their employees' pensions is not an excuse for us to do. I think we have a responsibility to our staff, and we have a responsibility to the Sonoma County public to ensure that our long-term liabilities, specifically our pension and our OPEB, are funded to a substantial and secure level. To not do that, to me, means that we're abrogating our fiscal responsibility, and I couldn't be party to that.
Okay, Dave,
Yeah.
one more time.
I disagree. If the current practice is, a substantially lower figure, and if no pension plans are going bankrupt, then that would be adequate for me. I don't want to chase a chimera unacceptably high rate. I think that would be a disservice to the public.
So if I could comment, I think what I hear Commissioner Cahill saying is what is an acceptable level of risk? So, and we need to do a little bit of research to find out what other agencies view as an acceptable level. Because I think about this like collections, 25% of your collection is in circulation at any given time. So we don't need 100% shelf space for every item we own. We need 75% shelf space. So there are certain variables that we factor in, when we make these, when we hire these companies that, X amount of people are going to retire per year. We're going to hire new people. They're going to be PEPRA. So all of those calculations go into these reports. So I think that that's the question that we need to determine is what is an acceptable level of risk for us to be carrying as an organization? And are we there? Are we under? Are we over? But we don't know. We don't know the answer to that question.
Yes, good point. I agree with, I'm really glad we're having this discussion. I personally tend to agree with what Andy's saying. And I think having, just gathering information is important, obviously. I'm glad to hear about another third party, get another independent decision, although like I said, they're not gonna tell us how much to fund at. I was shocked. I don't know if I have the same problem with the 20-year funding horizon. Because it's such a nice little number of 172,000 a year. You make up that, huge difference. It's really kind of amazing, but something reasonable, like, slightly less than 500,000. And, we do have our policy that we're taking 750,000 out of our operating expense, and that's a tremendous hit. And I know that, but it's worked. And, we've got OPEB down. But coming out of, we have a policy that, again, that it comes out of our unfunded liability, unassigned fund balance. And it's not a dramatic number. And, one of these numbers could be kind of a reasonable amount to take out of there. Again, I'm of the opinion that we're not going to be building up our unassigned fund balance very much in the coming years, but we have whatever we have right now, and that's what we're trying to take an eye on. What do we actually have that's not committed? And how do we plan for using it? And so I think this is all coming together in a nice way in terms of finding out what the facts are and where we're going with this. So, I do appreciate having this report. And that was the page that I had highlighted. I thought, that's nice, 172,000, we're all caught up. Pretty good. Andy, why did you have a question about the 20-year horizon, just out of curiosity?
Well, again, because it seems like a long time to me, and there's a figure in the because I don't have it, I only have my tablet here, so I'm having a little trouble finding all of the relevant numbers, but, okay. Amortization schedule and alternatives on page 46. Shows that, I mean, look, this is a complex problem. There's no right answer. Everything is going to involve trade-offs. I understand that. And as Dave is rightly pointing out, one of the big trade-offs is going to be pressure this puts on the operating budget. But that said, if you look at just the difference between the 10, 15, and 20-year amortizations, and if you can scroll down a little bit on that, please, Lisa, it shows you the difference in total spending that happens if you use these schedules. You got to roll down a little bit more, please. There we go. There we go. Yeah. So the 10-year in this example, and again, I'm looking for information. I have a personal feeling, but it's based on no expertise. But 20 years seems like a long time, and it looks like the total amount of money that you would spend over that 20-year period is going to be greater. It's kind of analogous to a 30-year home mortgage versus a 15-year mortgage. You save a lot of money in interest along the way. So that's all. Again, I think I pose this in the form of two questions, and although I have my own opinions, I don't think they matter. I think we need some additional expertise. That said, since Dave mentioned the internet, I am going to forward an article. I can't see everybody who's in the room. I was going to send it to Barbara, Deborah, Dave, and Tina on the committee, Erica, Dara, Myrna, and Lisa. Is anybody else in the room?
No. No.
Okay. Okay. So this perhaps you could consider self-serving because it is published by the American Academy of Actuaries, but the article quickly says 80% should not be the goal. It should be 100. So, but again, I'm not proposing that we try to answer the question in this meeting. I'm proposing that we recognize we have a couple of questions that could guide our policy making if we had answers, even if the answers represented a range of thinking or a divergence of viewpoints. I don't want us to just go on my opinion or Dave's here.
Well, thank you, Andy. I think, again, we're getting the questions out and the need to know information out. I think, Myrna and Erica understand where we're going. I would like to say again that I personally am not interested in putting pressure on the operating expense. I think we can take this out of the unfunded. I'd like to have a policy that would come out of the unfunded, unassigned fund balances. But anyway, that's just another item for, again, my opinion, and it's, fodder for the further discussion. So all of this comment, yes, Commissioner Doyle.
One last question, and this brings us back to the beginning of our conversations about this, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I was mishearing, but before Measure W passed, as we were having these conversations about what can we do for the future, we did talk about a trust. We talked about putting, and we decided that we weren't going to think about that until the measure either did pass or didn't pass. So we haven't really considered that. And I think that might be something that you might have some strong opinions about because you're our CFO. So I would love to hear that, not today necessarily, unless you've got something prepared to go, but I think that that's an important alternative to us also. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
And the great thing about the trust is that you can take money out and pay your current obligations. It doesn't have to be, there's a lot of flexibility with the trust. Yeah. Did you want to have some more comments? Sorry.
No, I would just like to say that the commission has experience with the 115 trust, with how you addressed OPEB and how you funded it. The commission funded the 115 trust as a hybrid. I think initial to start it, the library must have used unassigned fund balance, and then decided on a figure that would be annual out of the operating. So we could definitely lean on that experience to develop something for pension.
Well, I think our education is going a long way in our understanding of the complexities of this. Any final thoughts or questions or information that we would like to find out from our CFO when we, will you be ready, do you think, on next month agenda to take this further or not?
For next month, I wanted to have a presenter.
Okay.
I'm hoping that we can have a presenter from the third party. You have heard from CalPERS in the past. We could, if you wanted to bring back CalPERS, we could. I'm not sure if it should be both of them at the same meeting, but we could stagger them. So I'm hoping that we can have at least one presentation next month.
Great. Go ahead, David.
How can we get these two groups in the same room so that we can get them discussing each other's position? No? Probably not. Okay.
Yeah. I think the other piece of information that I could bring is I could reach out to other libraries and special districts especially the other special districts within Sonoma County, to see where they are and what their funding status is. And then I'll reach out to other libraries to find out what their funding status is.
Well,
I
not
can do
just the
that.
status,
Okay.
please.
I'll do that, yeah.
Yes, the funding status.
Because I have the NorthNet library system, all of those library directors, and then we also have through California Library Association, other groups I can reach out to.
Andy wants. I think we need both the amount, the level of that and the rate of return. Is that what you're looking for as well, Andy, or what?
No, I'm looking for the goal. I mean, yeah, I know, Dave's very clear that he wants to know what they're currently at, and that's fine with me, but I'm looking for expert opinion around where we should be. I'm going to believe, based on just the little bit of internet searching I've been doing while we're on the call, that experts believe we should be close to 100%. And the fact that some organizations may not be there is not going to be enough to convince me that we don't have to try to be there. So we need to get both current funding and what they consider to be appropriate funding.
Yes, I did have your comments,
Okay.
Commissioner Elkind, what
Thank
is
you.
the target and what is their funded status compared to other libraries, and what is their goal?
Okay. Listen, everybody, I'm so sorry, but I'm going to have to leave. I really appreciate you letting me join remotely, and thanks for the great discussion.
Kiss to the baby.
Yes,
Thank
give
you.
Willow our love.
Okay.
Have a good
Thanks a
time.
lot.
Safe
Thank you.
travels. Bye, Andy.
Bye-bye.
Does Willow have a library card is what we should have asked.
Cisco.
Before we go to the question about agenda items for future committee, I had a comment that I didn't get to ask back on page 18 of the narrative on preparing the budget. And this is just a little thing, but under April, May, it says we send notices out to the Measure Y committee and the library advisory boards and the general public. I'm wondering if we should send a notice to the JPA partners as well.
Yeah, that's a good idea. They should know what we're up to.
They should.
Yeah.
What an idea. If you could add that, it sounds like consensus about that, okay?
Yeah, we can send that to the city managers.
All right, that was just one of my pink notations here. So, we always have a great place to start our meetings based on the workflow. Did anyone else have any question, anything they'd like to bring forward for an agenda item for Finance Committee next month? I think we'll have plenty to discuss with our pension consultant. Okay, and we're back on track in March, the third Monday, 17th at 3 o'clock, right here. And thank you everyone
St.
for being
Patrick's Day.
here. St. Patrick's Day, one of your green. Yes,
It didn't make it on the agenda. I don't know if we could just at least comment today and maybe have it on the agenda for next month regarding the June meeting, scheduling the June meeting.
yeah, what was that issue about changing it, right?
Well,
For-
looking at changing the date to the last week of June, I will be out of the office, and I think there were other persons that had some other issues.
Lisa, can you remember to put that on to agendize for the next meeting?
Sure.
I thought,
Yes, I can do that.
We adjourned, or are we still?
I think we're still in the meeting right now.
we're in the meeting.
Still
We're very,
discussing.
very close to the end. All right. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, with you.
Now we're done.
Hey.